Hello everyone, Simon here with a review of Anamorphine. Anamorphine is a single player first person walking simulator narrative style game, bit of a mouthful, available on PlayStation 4 and PC. It's available in VR and non-VR as well. I have not played the VR version, so I have no comments on that whatsoever. And this is the PS4 non-VR version you can see on your screens. There's a lot I've got to say about Anamorphine, and I'm going to try and split it up into a spoiler-free section, and then at the end I'll talk about spoilers in general, but I'll kind of scream spoilers incoming before I kind of get there, so don't panic, although I will talk about the overarching theme of the game in this section. Anamorphine has a lot going on technically that really impressed me, story-wise that really impressed me, but then marries it up with some really clunky gameplay implementation, which kind of mars some of the overall experience that you have with Anamorphine, even though it's trying to tell some really, really strong and interesting messages. You play as Tyler, and you see the world through the eyes of Tyler. Tyler is married to Eleanor, and Eleanor and Tyler have been basically moving into their new apartment together and starting their new life of joy together. And that's kind of where the game vaguely picks up at the beginning. And what you're doing through the world of Tyler is going through interconnected memories in his brain, essentially, to piece together fragments of their life together so that you can see a journey over a course of time. And the reason why that's important is because Eleanor is a relatively famous cello player, and she plays to live performances and concerts and crowds and so on and so forth. She's a bit bohemian, she's got multicoloured hair, you know what it is, a little edgy. So you two are having the time of your life, and then sadly she gets involved in a bike accident and is no longer able to play the cello properly again, or at least at that level of competition. And talent, I guess. And so that then sparks a downward spiral of her depression. The way how Anamorphine deals with this, and one of the things that really impressed me about it, is the way how it doesn't use words to show what depression should be like. And I've seen some other games that have talked about depression and dealt with mental health that go down almost like the read my depressing words on the screen look, which is fine and that has its own merit. But what Anamorphine does that really impressed me is the way how it does storytelling through visual representation. So you spend a lot of the time of the game in your new flat and watching it fall apart, or seeing the visual cues of where something can tell you so much without actually having to say anything at all to you, because you can see how the world around them and their home is slowly decaying and falling apart over time when you revisit things in later times. And it was really interesting to be the bystander of someone watching someone go through depression, and feeling quite helpless and relatively connected. Some of the gameplay elements kind of made you more frustrated at the experience rather than actually being invested in the story, but at its best Anamorphine makes you yearn and pine for Eleanor to get on the road to recovery. You want to do whatever you can to kind of like plant the seed of recovery back into her again, and there's a lot of surrealism in terms of the visuals in certain parts where it's almost like depression is visualized as a bad seed, and you're having to kind of try and like stop it swallowing her whole kind of thing, and that type of stuff. Some absolutely fantastic imagery, and one of the technical marvels that I absolutely loved about Anamorphine was that when you're moving between different sections, it's preloading stuff in the background, so you might walk through a cupboard and pop out in your brain and then walk through another section of your brain and you're walking straight into another memory again. It was really clever how it was trying, at least, to be very seamless, preloading stuff in the background so that you keep on warping in between different places and times and things like that. The issue with that technically is that the game lags like a moose. So it's busy trying to load stuff in the background. So if you're going to try and hurry through and not take your time, and even if you do take your time, the game is having to think quite a lot in advance to try and preload a lot of stuff from going on and happening, because it doesn't know when you're going to, like, I don't know, look into the mirror and then the mirror might walk you forward into something else. So it's constantly loading and then jarring and causing frame rate drops or freezes and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a bit clunky on that side of stuff. However, in some of the sections, more notably, there's some bike riding sections and some surrealistic desert environments where the gameplay implementation actually made me feel a little bit motion sick. And I was like, oh, this isn't really what I was wanting when I want to be so invested in a story itself. And that's down to clunky gameplay mechanics, not understanding like good movement, I guess. And that sounds like a really weird thing to kind of bring out in a game. But because these sections pop up quite often and there's no quote unquote straightforward gameplay to talk about, they stick out like a sore thumb in what is a really interesting and unique experience and a real comment on depression as a whole. So if you don't mind wrestling with some really clunky gameplay, but you're interested in a really interesting story, then Anamorphine is something that I would recommend. But if you're coming in here looking for gameplay in a seamless, interesting experience, this game is absolutely not for you as well. One of the things that I did want to mention as well is that it does put in a trigger run through as well. So if you're worried, if you're suffering from your mental health at the moment, or you suffer from depression and you're worried about it triggering you into it, it can actually skip out scenes of the game for you where depression is kind of hit smack on in your face at its most deepest chorus levels. Or it can give you just triggers up beforehand as well. So I thought that was quite empathetic to everyone's different place on the spectrum of how you can approach this level of adult discourse, I guess, on mental health. So yeah, that's kind of all that I have to say on it, with no spoilers whatsoever. I'm going to scream, spoilers here! Have a quick sip of Coke. And if you've not stopped the video by now and left a like, please, then naughty you. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's because it's big spoiler territory, is as you play as Tyler, you are seeing all of these amazing imageries and representations of depression. Ultimately, Eleanor takes her own life, and what was quite interesting for me was that there was, as Tyler, I did wonder how that was going to affect our gameplay, and I expected more from how that story went. I was half expecting it as I was playing through. What I wanted was more actually of Tyler kind of coming back to his own senses again. There are multiple endings in the game, but I was not aware of me choosing the multiple ending, if that makes sense. Essentially, the last level of the game sees you spiraling around inside of your own house, because you can only kind of keep moving round and round and round, opening up a cupboard, ending up at the front door, opening up at the cupboard, ending at the front door. And gradually, like, a phone is ringing louder in the background. Now, I was aware that the phone was ringing, but because I hadn't been able to properly interact with anything up to that point, I didn't think of choosing anything. And it wasn't until I was looking at trophies and stuff like that afterwards that I kind of went, oh, there was a choice that I could have made. Now, that is either a statement of my own mental health, that I was so engrossed in going cyclically down in a spiral because I was annoyed that Eleanor had killed herself and I was feeling all of these different emotions, which, to be fair, is an interesting comment in itself. But the ending was essentially here I'm a friend here, was picking up the phone and a friend going, come on, let's go out for dinner, gets you out of the house. And I was like, okay, like proper low key, yes, that is some amazingly good advice, because your friends and breaking up monotony and all of that kind of stuff will help and be that first slow step on the way to dealing with your depression. I was going to say curing, but I don't necessarily know if you ever really cure, quote unquote, your depression from that. Speaking from family experience, not necessarily my own. Yeah, it was just... It was understated but underwhelming. I think I was wanting to have the choice, because I could feel that Tyler was starting to slip down too, and I wanted the choice to really be mine, to kind of be like, do you know what, there's forks in the road in front of you and it's up to you to take that path, because everyone can lay the breadcrumbs out before you, but actually it's you that has to have the strength to take that first step and the first reach out to go and be on the road to recovery, so to speak. So yeah, apologies, that was a little bit of a cloudy rant, but I just thought it was really, really interesting that it tells an absolutely amazing story and then kind of left me a little bit cold on the finale. But yeah, Anamorphine, really interesting game, not for everyone. Wished that some of the gameplay was a bit tighter, and that the lag spikes and the graphic frame drops were less noticeable throughout the game. If you've got any comments or questions, or if you have your own experiences and want to leave them about after playing Anamorphine, drop them in the comments down below. I'd be really interested to hear about them. And thank you very much for watching. You guys take care, and happy gaming. This channel is just one of my many projects that cover games, music and film. If you enjoy any of these and would consider supporting me to develop further in the future, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Satorimon. Thank you for your time and for watching the video.